Welcome, Sojourners. You have found yourself a cozy place here at Sojourners Awake. I'm Jonathan, and this is our production of The Wild in the Wind. Like you, the Sojourners are on a mission. They face conflict, and sometimes even danger. In this episode, the Sojourners cross the borders of Tethryna. They have left the southern territories and have entered the kingdom. Every great road trip is highlighted by great conversations. What will the Sojourners discover about themselves and each other? And so for now, our story continues. The Sojourners marched on through the warm spring days. The green fields rose gently into the hills. The wagons slowed during the gradual ascents, though the dwarves coached the horses to each peak. Midway through the journey, they stopped for a substantial rest at a spring cutting directly through the landscape. The overwhelming shadow of Dockson's Peak in the western mountains informed them all that they had crossed into the borders of Tethryna. "Mind your language," announced Phineas. Both he and Wangus tightened their belts and polished their Grove-lore crests, both glistening as golden chevrons on their jackets. "We crossed over the border today." After the altercation with Jack Frost, the journey to Tethryna is uneventful. The road winds on, gradually leading them further and further north. After 3 days, Eris and her companions crest a hill and are treated to a beautiful view of the silver-capped mountains. She is struck by the beauty of this scene, the jagged mountains gleaming in the afternoon sun. Being born and raised in Boshan, and then sojourning to the south in the Madaxar Empire, Eris has never seen such a lovely cascade of stone peaks in her life. It's magical, like something out of a fairy tale. Phineas pulled the horses to a halt. He hopped off the wagon and began to sort through the inventory and all of the legal paperwork. The young man, Irony, stepped away from the group, and seeing that this would take a while, moved to a nearby stony ledge, sat down, and gazed toward Baldtop Library. Samoon notices Irony sitting alone on the rock nearby. He sees Phineas and Wangus have stolen a few minutes of sleep, so he wanders nonchalantly over to the young man. He stretches out his hands. "Oh, what a nice day," he says cheerfully. Samoon then spoke at length to Irony about the altercation with Jack Frost, and explained at the time he was only trying to protect him from being hurt. Irony, still sore about the encounter, retorts just as expected. "I hired a bodyguard. That should have been enough protection." Samoon gets quiet and senses that it may have been the right message, but maybe Irony received it differently from him. Maybe he saw Samoon in a different light. After a moment, Irony confirmed Samoon's thoughts out loud. "You see, Samoon, you and Bertie chose to ride along with me. I can't pay you. I don't need another bodyguard, and certainly not a babysitter. It's already embarrassing enough for Eris to be here, like I'm some sort of prince." Samoon retains the silence long enough to allow Irony to finish. "I suppose I really did want to jump in and help. Not that Eris couldn't handle it, or even you. I guess I just wanted to help." Samoon replied, "Did I make it worse by telling you to leave?" "Yes," the young man answered. After a moment, Samoon spoke up. He faced the wind, but kept his thoughts on Irony. "You know, Irony, there are lots of ways to help in the world. And even I know that. Sometimes the helpful thing to do is fight. Sometimes run. Sometimes it means to be sneaky, and sometimes it means to draw attention to oneself. I think of it very much in the moment, almost as if the wind is guiding me. That makes it easy." It's not personal. But I want you to feel strong, so maybe I can help with that. Samoon then lifts the breathtaker and grips the staff tightly, smiling. Irony, this is for you. I want you to have it and learn to use it. It has helped me many times, and I think it is time for you to have it. Here, it is a gift. Irony's eyes go wide, and whatever burden he carried shed with that moment's cool breeze, flowing gently over the hillside. Eagerly, he removed the staff from Samoon's light grip and eyed the intricate markings along the wood. Samoon, thank you. This is quite a gift. Samoon smiled and leaned back against the grass with his hands folded behind his head. He laughed quietly at how simple this was to resolve. Irony whispered quietly, Breathtaker. Phineas announced solemnly that the party had crossed the borders into the kingdom of Tethryna. The Regency mountain pass opened to their right, dividing the western mountains and leading into distant lands to the east. To the west, the highlands continued toward the Mavi Ocean, and toward the north, the highlands rolled up and down in anticipation into the border city of Andor. Phineas mentions that he and his brother, Wangus, have no need to prepare, as the dwarves of Grovelore always get a free pass through the border towns, no questions asked. This bit of information seeds into Samoon's mind, and he slowly begins to recite an incantation to alter his appearance. Moments later, Samoon diminishes in size, sprouts a beard, and appears as a dwarf walking alongside the cart. The young henfolk Bertie Cartwright decides that she will hide under the canvas in the cart. Shortly after, Phineas advises strongly against this, as it would seem that she is trying to smuggle her way in. After a little bit of conversation, Bertie announces that she hailed originally from Sultana, a city in the Northern Kingdom, and is therefore a resident herself. Nevertheless, she still tries to alter her appearance, posing as a dwarf, despite the discovery she made. Eris continues to walk, ever so stoically and confidently, as she crosses into the Northern Kingdom. At long last, they reached the border. Eris had heard whispers of heavy patrols due to unrest in Boshan, so she is not surprised when one such armored party rides their way. She's been suspecting this, and she is not concerned. One look at her credentials would secure her passage into this beautiful new country. In the distance, they spot the cavalry, the border patrol of Tethryna, and the thunder of hoofbeats reach their ears in the distance. The cavalry of Tethrynian soldiers break left and move towards the Sojourners. Moments later, they are assembled completely around the cart. Phineas pulls the cart reverentially to a halt, and the captain of the guard removes his helmet, steps forward, and hails the Sojourners. I am Captain Andor of Castle Andor. Please present your permission to cross over into the borders of Tethryna. Phineas and Wangus announce their allegiance to Grovelore Citadel. Bertie Cartwright gets into a hilarious conversation with the lieutenant, all the while speaking in Dwarvish. Samoon maintains his altered appearance and nods only gruffly that he too is from Grovelore. The young man Irony presents his permission slip from the Grovelore Citadel and presents it to Captain Andor. And then, the captain looks towards Eris and says, "Would you please present your permission?" When asked, she produces her papers, along with Irony. She's not paying attention to what the others are doing. After a brief hesitation, the captain holds up his hand and apologizes. I'm sorry for all the formalities. Normally, we are not so strict here at the border of the kingdom of Tethryna, but certainly you have heard of the uprisings in Boshan, the sons of war that have now spread to Highkeep, even Greenfield. Some say that even Baldtop Library is compromised, and that war is brewing. For this reason, we must secure our borders. Now could you please present your permission?
Irony's papers are scanned and returned, but when her papers are reviewed, the soldier's eyes go wide. He takes them back to his fellows, and there is a heated discussion. After some time, the captain returns and questions her on the authenticity of these documents. Affronted, Eris informs them that her documents are correct. She is indeed Alora Eris Basile, daughter of Tethryna Basile and Gerard Perdue, granddaughter of Lord Ven Basile. The seal is official, the crest is accurate. So why is there a problem? Her face grows pale when she is informed that her name is grounds for confinement. Her patriarch, Lord Rue Basile, is wanted for war crimes. War crimes? What war crimes? Her cousin is a good man. He fed the poor, provided jobs for the needy. If there's any unrest in Boshan, it wasn't his fault. He, among all the noble houses, made strides to better the lives of the people. She knows, for she has seen the ledgers and guarded the shipments. But then the guard mentions the murder of the noble houses, and Eris's argument falters. She grows even paler, stammering that she has no answer for that, for she wasn't there, and she had been sojourning in the Mayadaxar Empire. But it is clear she knows more than she is saying. The other two are questioned about her motives and identity, but all in all, everyone are mostly strangers.
In the name of the King of Tethryna, I place you, Eris, under arrest for consorting with Lord Basile, the uprisings of the Sons of War. For your direct relation to House Basile, you are under arrest for suspect of the uprisings in Boshan and the murder of the noble houses. Please, willingly raise your wrists that I may shackle them in the name of the king. For the preservation of justice.
In the end, Eris is informed she will be taken into custody. Rather than fight, she offers herself willing. I know not these war crimes of which you speak, she says, but I know myself I am innocent. Take me to trial. I will yield to your laws.
The cavalry then turns around, leading Eris away towards Castle Andor into the north. Irony holds the staff in his hand, looks at Samoon, looks at Bertie, and says exasperatedly, "We can't just leave her. She was my bodyguard. I can't let her pay for this. I have to do something, Samoon. Bertie, will you help?" Phineas and Wangus step off the cart. "So is that meaning you're not going to Grovelore?" To prove his point, Irony then foolishly tears up the permission paper from Grovelore Citadel. "I take it that as a no." Irony then stamps on the paper in the soft grass and says, "No, my path lies towards Castle Andor. I must help Eris." And so, as the sun sets, Bertie, Samoon, and Irony travel north towards Castle Andor, keeping a close eye on Eris as she is led shackled away by the leading of a horse and 50 cavalry. And so for now, our story concludes.
Every story comes to an ending, so for now we must conclude. Thank you for listening, Sojourners. Your attention will not go unrewarded, and we look forward to continuing this adventure. And yes, we look forward to playing a game. Now that this has been released, I will schedule another game of The Wild and the Wind, so that we can gather together around the table and share our story. What will happen to Eris? What will Bertie and Samoon and Irony find out? I hope you continue to follow us as we produce The Wild and the Wind. But however you do sojourn with us, as always, may your story continue. If you enjoyed this background music and ambiance, make sure to visit Tabletop Audio. Find them at www.tabletopaudio.com.